right? Because those are the people who you would think that you should not be machnif. I mean, your wife, yes, but a bal chayiv, wouldn't that be? The guy's a jerk, and he's a bal chayiv, so you're allowed to be machnif him so that he doesn't make you pay back the loan so quickly. I don't know. Anyways, okay, so now we're on Nun Hey Amud Beis. We'll try and make this as simple as we can. Ultimately, when we get it straight, and it's going to be coming up again in 3 blot from now, and 4 blot from now. So we're stuck with this for a bit. We'll over tomorrow and the next day, we'll Bez Hashem be talking about payas and shaving. But then we get back to this sugya again. So really, I think it's not so difficult once we understand the yisaidus of the sugya, which let's just go with the basic. If somebody's a nazir, right, and then he becomes tamei mace, so he's got to start his entire nazirus over again, right? That's pashut. Matzaira is the same thing, right? The matzaira, he has to, well, it's not exactly the same thing. If he has tsaras in middle of his nazirus, then his nazirus gets put on hold until he's finished with his tsaras, and then his nazirus comes right back, right? Fine, that's fairly straightforward. Then there's another din that a nazir has to have 30 days of hair growth before he could take his final haircut to end his nazirus, right? So those are the 3 basics. Again, if he becomes tamei mace, he has to start his nazirus again. If he becomes tamei tsaras, he does not have to start again, but it gets put on hold until his tsaras is over. And he needs to have 30 days of hair growth before he could take a haircut, right? Now, next, that's a with nazir. Then another thing is that when a nazir becomes tamei, he has to, after he's finished his 7 days of tumah, and he's going to start his nazirus again, but before that he has to bring karbanos, and he has to also shave his head because he's starting the nazirus again. A matzaira, the way it works with a matzaira is that there's a matzaira muskar and there's a matzaira mukhlat, and then there's 3 stages of tsaras. There's muskar where he starts showing symptoms, to which they lock him away for a week, and then they recheck the symptoms. If they check it after a week and he has tsaras, then he gets locked up till the symptoms go away. Once the symptoms go away, he needs a week of being clean, and then he has to shave his entire body twice. Once at the beginning of that week, and then 7 days later he has to shave his body again, and then he brings karbanos, right? So that's the basic din of tsaras. What? And then he's muskar, where he's locked up under
waiting to see if he is.
Waiting to see. Then mukhlat if he taka becomes.
Okay.
And then once he's done with the tsaras, he has the 1 week where he has to shave his whole body.
What's that called?
Then what's that called? That's called I forgot what the name is. Forgot what the name of that is. But anyways, fine. So those are the basic dinim. Now, what we're throwing into here is okay. So let's go with an example. The guy becomes a nazir today. Tomorrow he becomes tamei mace. Tomorrow, let's say, he becomes a tsaras. And the tsaras, he gets locked away for a week. Then he gets tsaras, that's another week, and then he has another week of clearing up of whatever. So now his nazirus is now already 21 days old, but he only counted 1 day of nazirus. So then he would have to count another 29 days, and then he could take his haircut, and everything will be fine. Right? That's what it would be. But that nazirus would take him 40, 3 weeks, 40. It would be 51. It would be a 51-day ordeal. But let's say, fine. Now let's say he became a matzaira, and then he counted another 2 weeks, and then he became tamei mace. So now the whole thing starts again. So basically his nazirus went from being 30 days to approximately, I'm just throwing numbers out there, to 70 days. Right? That's what would be. So now the problem is here in this case, we're talking about where he became Tomei Mace, Misafik. He became, so he had Saras, Misafik. In both of them, he didn't know what he was
Is there any case of Taras or Suffolk and you wait a week?
No, once he knew, once he found out, he found out.
But how do you not find out after a week?
How do you not find out?
After a week.
So the Tosfos is going to say that it means that we weren't ever sure whether that tzaras was a proper tzaras to make him asa.
Because even though we have a week to figure out the suffix, this guy fell through the cracks on that one.
Yeah.
You really should buy a lottery.
Color issue, isn't it?
What?
Isn't it a color thing?
It's a color issue, yeah.
Yeah.
See, somebody just texted me from the mikvah. A lady just texted me from the mikvah that she has a bone graft in her mouth. Can she go to the mikvah? So, Harold, I don't know if Harold, I want to ask, okay, does she have any idea how they did that bone graft? I'm just curious if they used real bones or not, but I don't think that would be the proper, I don't think that would be the proper thing to do.
She got it within the last month?
What?
She got it within the last month?
I'm assuming so.
Right?
Why is she waiting till she's at the mikveh to ask? I have no idea. But Nebuch, I have to tell, okay, Mom is totally off tangent. The lady had to go to mikveh tonight and she got stitches this afternoon and she didn't ask. She didn't ask if she should do anything. And the doctor said, she did ask the doctor if she could push it off till tonight. And he said, you might lose feeling in your fingers. So she didn't chabot halachas and she got stitches. They don't use dissolvable stitches in the hand. They only use stitches that have to be removed. And now she can't go to mikveh for 10 days, right? Because she didn't, I don't know what exactly we could have told her. Use a butterfly stitch until the mikveh and then take it off, then get the stitches. Okay, we're off on a tangent. As much as I'm trying to avoid this whole sugi here, but we got to get to it. Yeah. What are you saying?
I'm just saying, I don't know how many people know what I'm talking about, but that phone call I got, that's Beryl Elan's granddaughter, is a Kala to Kalman Friedis's grandson.
Very interesting. Yeah. Very nice.
He was calling me. He was calling me from Waterbury. He was calling me from Waterbury. Yes.
That's very nice. Oh, Rachman's on.
Yeah. Rachman's on. He's a little bit on the button. He's falling down.
It's from your neck of the woods. Okay, it's a simple from your neck of the woods.
Now, Common Friedis is in Florida.
Yeah. Oh, he's in Florida now.
Yeah.
Smart man. Anyway, so getting back to the sugya. So now what happens if everything is a suffix? So now if this guy's a suffix saras, and if he's a suffix of tuma, so the problem is that he can't take haircuts because really a nazir has an isser daraisa to take a haircut. We said that if he gets tzaras or if he becomes tamei meis, he's allowed to take a haircut. But he's really also to take a haircut. But he's only allowed to take the haircut. Remember, we said it's essay doichel, right? The mitzvah say of a mitzvah shaving his head, shaving his body, is doichel of a nazir, whether it's a loisaseh and an asay. We'll get to that also, Bez Hashem, tomorrow. But the bottom line is, we said that it's doichel, but that's only if it's a vadai. You can't allow a nazir to shave on a suffix. Again, we're talking about he's a suffix tzaras and a suffix that he's tamei meis. On a suffix, you cannot allow a nazir to take a haircut. So Elamai, what do you have to do? You have to wait until his 30 days are over, and then you could start handling. Now he's allowed to take a haircut. Meaning the guy became a nazir today. Tomorrow he became a suffix mitzaira and a suffix tamei meis. You cannot just let him do the 1 week of tahara on the suffix and then let him shave, because that shaving maybe was never allowed because he was never maybe he wasn't tamei meis. So it's not essay doichel. So therefore, what you have to do is you have to wait for his naziris to be over, which would let him wait 30 days. Right now, let him wait his 7 clean days. Then he could take a haircut. But now that he took a haircut, maybe his whole naziris is no good because maybe he taka was tamei meis. Right. So since he was tamei meis, his whole naziris that he waited was no good. So now he takes a haircut, and now you got to wait 30 days for the next haircut.
But what does tamei meis have to do then? You don't shave.
Yes, you do. Tamei meis, you shave.
You shave after tamei meis?
For a nazir, yes. A nazir after tamei meis shaves. Anyways, so that's all. Well, I mean, this whole thing is outside because the Gemara is not really saying it inside. But either way, again, now getting back. So what does this have to do with anything? So Rav Chisda had said that when somebody has a long Nazirus, then his Matzara days will count. His Matzara days will count. Let's say he became a Nazir for 100 days, right? And after 30 days, he became a Matzara of Tzaras. So we're going to say he's got to wait 7 days, 14 days, 21 days, depending on what exactly happened with his Tzaras. So we're saying, Rav Chisda had said that those days could count towards the 100 days, right? So the Gemara is trying to disprove Rav Chisda from this sugi. So let's say it's the second line up from the bottom on Nun Hayim base. So Maser Rami Barchama Nazir Shaya Tamei B'Safik Umuchlet B'Safik. He was Tamei Mace B'Safik and he was Tamei Muchlet. Muchlet means that they locked him up and they decided that it's for short Tzaras, meaning, but it was a suffix whether it was for short Tzaras. Right? And this all happened on the first day of his Nazirus. On Talmud Aleph now. So now, he's allowed to eat kachim after 60 days. Why? So let's try and run through this again very, very, hopefully try and make it simple. Right? Again, he was masupik. He's masupik whether he became Tommy Mace, and he's masupik for tzaras. So after 60 days, he can shave for the tzaras, and then he becomes mutter to eat kachim because the Mitzayra is not allowed to eat kachim. So basically, what's the problem, Gesh?
After 30 days, he can shave for the tzaras.
Correct, but then he has to wait another 30 days for the Nazirus.
Yeah, but once he shaved from the tzaras, he can touch him.
What? But this was your kasha last night.
Oh, right.
Yeah, see, I remember. It's all that Yerushalmi cool. I had another 4 pieces today, by the way. So I think we're down to 1 more piece. Yeah. So right. So how do we get around that kasha? I had a teretz today. I had a teretz to this. Why you have to wait 60 days? Right, because his second tzaras haircut can only be a month later. That's why. His second, he takes 2 haircuts, the Mitzayra. Once at the beginning and then 7 days later. He can't do the 7-day later one because he's a Suffolk Mitzayra and he's being a Nazir.
So the Nimanov Shach, it's sad that he's a Mitzayra, he can't start his Nazirus.
Correct, but on the tzad that he's a Nazir, he can't do the second haircut.
It's sad that he only needs to be a Nazir. I'll sad that he's a Mitzayra.
No. Okay, 1 second. Let's go through the case. He became a Nazir tonight, and then tonight he became a Suffolk Mitzayra. Let's just stay with Mitzayra for a second. He became a Suffolk Mitzayra, right? So now, normally he has to wait 7 days, 14 days, 21 days, whatever it is, right? Let's say it's 21 days. He has to wait 21 days, right? And then he takes a haircut. Then he waits. Let's say after 14 days he shaves his whole body, and then he waits another 7 days. He shaves his whole body again. Fine. He cannot do that in this case because since he's a Nazir, he has an isser to shave. So he can only shave if he's a Vadai Mitzvah. Since he's a Suffolk Mitzvah, he can't do it. So he has to wait the 30 days. Now the Nazirus is over. Since the Nazirus is over, he's allowed to shave, right? So he shaves that once on day 30 or day 31, whichever it is. Let's say day 31, the Nazirus is over. He shaves for his first thing of tzaras, right? Now he has to shave really a week later for his second body shave for the tzaras. He cannot do that because on the tzad, which Mamanov Shach.
On that side, he's a Mitzayra. He can't start his Nazirus. On the side that he's not a Mitzayra, he doesn't need the Nazirus.
Correct, but we don't know, so we have to treat it. We have to go with the chumras of both ways.
How can he possibly start the next day? That's what I'm saying. He can only start his second thing of Nazirus 7 days later, after his second haircut.
Right, but he can't take that second haircut because on the tzad that he was a tzaras, because he's still in the middle of his Nazirus.
So on that tzad that he is a Mitzayra, what would he do if he was about a Mitzayra? He would have his haircut 7 days later.
He would still be a Nazir. He's
If he
on
was
the,
a Vadai Mitzayra,
on the tzad, he was a Vada Mitzayra. He's still in the middle of his Nazirus.
but he would have to do a haircut 7 days later.
He can't.
On the tzad that he's not a Mitzayra.
But on the
that
tzad that he
he's
is
not
a
a Mitzayra, he's not a Nazir.
On the who's on first? On the tzad that he is a Mitzayra, he cannot take that second haircut.
Well, he has to on the tzad that he is a Mitzayra.
He can't. He could do it after 7 days. There's no maximum. He just can't be within 7 days.
1 second. If he was a Vadai Mitzayra, he would have his haircut and then 7 days later have his second haircut, then
Correct.
restart the Nazirus.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So on tzad that he's a Vadai Mitzayra, he would have 7 days between the
Right.
two.
But on the tzad that he is a Vada Mitzayra, he's still in the middle of his Nazirus days.
He would still take the haircuts.
No, he can't. He's not allowed to
Oh,
take
he's in the middle of being a Nazir.
So why are we talking about Suffolk Mitzayra?
because
Talking
he's
about
a
Vadai
suffix. You're right. Because he's a suffix, so he can't take the haircut. We don't know.
So he's saying if he's Vadai Nazir.
But he's not a. He's
Vadai
a.
Mitzayra.
But he's
One
not a
second.
Vada.
But if he
But
was,
If he
Suffolk
was,
means
then
there's
yes,
two
but he's not.
tzadim. Hold on. Suffolk means there's two tzadim. Either he is a Mitzayra or he's not a Mitzayra.
Correct.
If he is a Mitzayra, he would take the two haircuts 7 days apart. No questions
Correct.
asked.
Correct.
If he's not a Mitzayra, he doesn't need the haircuts in the first place. He's not a Nazir now. Either
He's
way,
still a
he should-
Nazir.
He is a Nazir.
He's
He
a
is a Nazir.
Nazir.
He's not a Mitzayra, you meant to say.
He don't
He's
need
still
your
a
help.
Nazir.
He's a Nazir.
He's
Sorry,
still a
he
Nazir.
Getting confused. He's always a Nazir. The question if the days count or not, but he's always a Nazir. That doesn't go away.
I think.
But
Yeah,
Tiago,
yeah.
how does he bring carbonas in this Suffolk state? How does he? Didn't we have this whole sugya before, where if you're a Suffolk, whether you're Tomei or not, or whatever it is, you're just stuck forever?
Yes,
because
Gemara is
basically-
going to discuss that on Daf Samach. On Daf
Uh-huh.
Samach, Akiva, we'll get to that.
Is it? I mean, weren't there
We're
certain
all-
shitas that you're always stuck? You're stuck forever
Yes, there are sheets
because
like
you can't
that. But
bring,
we have to,
Hulan Bazar.
Right.
Correct. We're Daf Samach, which is another 5 blocks from now. Heaven help us. Okay, but
I think that's the end of the Masechta now. No, it
Getting
goes
there.
after that.
it's getting there. It's getting there. But anyways, so again, let's just run it through quickly. Okay, Gershon, just to we can fight this out later. I thought I was going to down by 9:30.
Yeah, that's what
But anyway, again, so he's a suffix. So on the suffix of on the suffix, he cannot take the haircut of a suffix mitzvah because he's a nazir. So Mamela, he's only if he's a vadai mitzvah does he have a heter to take the haircut because it's daicha the nazir. Since he's a suffix, he can't. So when's the first time that he could take a shave of his whole body from the tzaras is after his nazirus is over, which is after day 30. So he takes one shaving, which is fine. Now the question is, but now maybe his whole nazirus that he kept the 30 days was no good because he really was a mitzvah. So he has to wait another 30 days
before the second.
before the second shaving of his mitzvah.
Why doesn't he wait till after the 7th, then start again?
He can't do it after the 7th because maybe it's his nazirus
Why can't he do it?
because he's in the middle of nazirus.
But he just finished it.
But that was a suffix nazirus.
Correct.
So he has to keep another suffix.
Just give
nazirus.
another something.
Right.
So why can't he do it after the second 7th? Why can't he start?
Because
there?
that's the middle of his nazirus.
He has to start the suffix right away. He can't push it off.
Correct.
Why?
Because he's a nazir.
Why? Because that's the
He's a nazir.
religion.
You can't push off. You can't push off. Although we did have a case where a guy could say that I'm a nazir in a week from now. What do we say with that? But that's not what happened here. He made himself a nazir right away. So, anyways, okay. Well, listen, we got to go back.
You know,
Yes,
if
so-
Peretz was here, he would say, you haven't even finished the first moment. You haven't even
Where is
you haven't
Peretz?
started it.
Where is Peretz?
Peretz is indisposed at the moment.
Okay, Peretz. Well, whenever you listen to this, enjoy it. Okay. So.
Jacob, I have the muting power, so we better stop moving.
All right. Okay, we're moving. It goes fast. Once we get past this, it goes fast. Anyways, so therefore he has to take the first mitzvah haircut after day 30. He cannot take the second mitzvah haircut till another 30 days. Once he does that, so he's good. So now he could cut him because his tzaras is over with. Now we have to deal with his suffix tumah. Right now, you're not allowed to. This is another question Gershon asked. yesterday. You're not allowed to take a haircut to be yotze both. You can't kill two birds with one stone. You cannot shave for mitzvah and for suffix tumah at the same. That you cannot be yotze one for the other. So now, after we already get rid of mitzvah the first 60 days, now we can give him a haircut al suffix tumah, right? Or we need to finish the nazirus. But since it's a suffix tumah, he has to start another 30 days. So now we're up to day 90.
You
Right?
start another 30 days of Naziris
Because he might have been tummy. Because he might have been tummy. And then we have to do another 30 because in case he wasn't tummy. Right? And therefore that first nazirus was no good. So basically he needs 120 days. So the first 60 days is for tsaras, the next 60 days is for the suffix tumah. Okay, he can drink wine and becomes tummy mace after 120 days. But Tani Allah, we learned on this. That's all talking about by the Nazirus Muetas, which literally means the small Nazirus, which is a 30-day Nazirus. Nazirus Pashana, but if let's say a guy became a Nazir for a year, so then what's his din? He could eat kachim after 2 years because he has to push off, because of the tsaras, he has to push off his Nazirus for an extra year, right? He became a Nazir for 1 year, but because of the Nazirus, everything gets pushed off. Because of the tsaras, the suffix tsaras, it gets pushed off another year. Because that gets doubled. Fine. So what do you see from here? That even though he made a very lengthy Nazirus, the tsaras days don't count. Rav Chisda said yesterday's daf that the tsaras, if he becomes a nazir for a long time, then his tsaras days, as long as he has 30 days from when he has hair growth, then the tsaras days could count towards his nazir days. Clearly, the Gemara says not like that. If you say that the tsaras days go up literally, he shouldn't need 4 years. He should be okay with 3 years and 30 days, the 30 days for the growth. Elamai, Rav Chisda, who had said that you need to wait, for tsaras, when you have a long nazirus, the tsaras is included in his days. It clearly this Gemara is saying otherwise.
Just tsaras or tummy also?
What?
Just tsaras is included.
He's talking about tsaras. No, tumah is not the shona. Tumah is the shona. That's why he has to wait 3 years.
It's 21 years.
The mute button only works for Zoom, right?
What do you say?
The mute button only works for Zoom. We have a fist. That could work, right? Maybe I should go. You know what? There's some Yerushalmi Kugel from Gershon. Maybe fine. But and then another kasha. Now this kasha is just kavachonos back and forth, so it goes pretty.
You tell
quick,
Naftali with another minute. You have to finish Yerushalmi Kugel by Rosh Chodesh.
Yeah, but Master Ravashi, it's Shmura Yerushalmi. But Master Ravashi has another kasha. We said that the days of the tumah for tumah's mace doesn't count towards the minion, right? Yemei chalutai minayin. How do we know that the days where he's locked up for sure that doesn't count? Meaning, we had said that if when a nazir becomes tamei, so obviously those days don't count towards his nazirus, right? It gets put on hold and really has to start again. So how about the days of tsaras where he's for sure? Yemei chaluta means against chalut means like what definitively became a mitzvah. So he has to wait a week. So Yemei chaluta minayin. How do you know that those days don't get counted? But then it's a kavachem. Yemei tumah megalech or maybe carbon. If he becomes tamei mace, so he has to shave and he has to bring a carbon. And when he has a tsaras, he also has to shave his whole body and bring a carbon. So they're very similar. Becoming tamei and becoming mitzvah during a nazir are very similar. They both require haircuts and karbanas. So the yidmei tuma doesn't count towards his nazirus. It's the same thing. The days where he gets locked up because he's a definitive mitzvah also doesn't count. Right? So then it says, no, that's not you can't learn one out from the other. Imam b'mei tumasa shecame b'vatal b'hen es ha'kaidman. Yemei Tumah is much stricter than Tsaras because Yemei Tumah, not only don't those days of Tumah count towards his Nazirus, he actually has to start again from scratch. But the tzaras days, tzaras days doesn't make him start from scratch. Meaning, the difference would be is if a guy becomes a nazir, and then on day 15 of his nazirus he becomes tamei mace. So he's back to day one. But if on day 15 of his nazirus he becomes a mitzayra, he's not back to day one. He just puts it on pause, and once his tzaras is over, he goes back to day 15. So therefore, you can't compare the two. So the guy say, okay, so Amrid kavachaymeru. So let's say there's a kavachaymer uman nazir bekever. Let's say a guy becomes a nazir in the cemetery. We had this way back when. Right, this brilliant guy decided that he's gonna, while he's in the cemetery, he's becoming a nazir. So we said that, and he's tummy. So shesaroi roy l'kedachas nazirus, his hair that he has in the cemetery really should be cut off because he became a nazir in the cemetery. So really was a nazir that became tummy, so he's supposed to shave his head. But we say from Exeris HaKosav that, I think it was Exeris HaKosav, that he does not have to cut off his hair to start the Nazirus. So, minion. But since, even though he's not cutting off his hair, it's right to be cut off his hair, but it's not going towards the minion, meaning he cannot start his count because he's tummy. He can't start as Nazirus. So, Yemei Chalutoi, the days where he's for sure a Mitzayros, She'ein Sari Roy L'Tagachas Nazirus, his hair is not Roy to be cut off, right? Because he has to cut it off at Tzaras. Like Kol Shekain, isn't it a Kol Shekain that we're not going to count those days towards the Nazirus? Fine. And now we're only talking about the Yemei Chaluta, Yemei Sifra Minayin. What about the days of Sfira? That's what it's called, Yemei Sfira. The 7 days of the Tzaras. After he's done with the Tzaras, it's like Sfiras, like the same thing as Sfira Shivanakim or for a Zav. But dinner when it's a Kavachaymer, on Toma Beis now. Ma Yemei Chalutai, Ton Tigalachas, right? Just like when a person is locked up, meaning he's for sure became a Mitzayra. He needs a haircut, Af Yemei Sifroi, so too, the days of his counting, right? Also finish with shaving. And just like the days that he's definitely a Mitzayra doesn't count towards the days of his Nazirus, Af Yemei Sifroi, also the days of his counting are not going to be counted. Yochol Af Yemei Heskera, okay? So you would think even the days of Heskera is the days that he's locked up for observation. The first week, but din Nisan, and it would be a din. Cholut Mitama Mishka v'Moshe. Somebody who's a cholut, who's definitely has tzaras, he's matama, anything that he lays on or he sits on, and the days that he's locked up for observation, also he makes something, anything that he sits on or he lays on becomes tameh. So if you learn out that the days where he's definitely a mitzayra don't count, meaning we're saying that the Yemei Heskera and Yemei Chaluta are exactly the same. So since they're exactly the same, they should have the same din. And just like the Yemei Chaluta don't count towards the Nazir days, so too the days of Heskera, the days of observation before he gets officially called a Mitzayra should also not count. So Amrit, loy. But you can say, no, that's not comparable because Imar Rabbi Yemei Chaluta. Yemei Chaluta is different. Chaluta ton tiglachas and maybe carbon. When he becomes a for sure Mitzayra, which is called Yemei Chaluta, he needs a haircut and he needs to bring the carbon. Lefikach ein oilen. Therefore, it doesn't work. Tamar b'mei Heskera she'ein ton tiglachas ve'ena maybe carbon. Heskera does not require tiglachas and it does not have to bring a carbon. Lefikach yalul minyan. Therefore, it does count towards the Nazir days. Mikan namru. From here we see you may sifra, you may gomroi, ein oilam in a minyan, the days of his sfira and the days of his, now the Gemara changes what you may gomroi means. I think it means chaluta. Don't count towards the Nazir days. Of you may hazav, b'hazav, v'eskerish, and mitzayra. But if a Nazir becomes a zav or a zava, and the days that he gets locked up for observation, hare elu, oiluloi, those do count towards the Nazir. So bottom line is, with all this kavachayimers back and forth, the maskanas hagemara is that the days that the Mitzayra gets locked up count towards the Nazir days, meaning locked up for observation. But once he becomes a Nazir, and then the week of clean that he goes through, those weeks do not count towards the Nazir days. They just put it on pause. It doesn't have to start again like Tumas Meis, but it goes on pause. Whatever it is. So what's the kasha? Katani Mias. The Gemara says, however, it said, by Yemei Tuma, it's mevatel the earlier days, where it's not mevatel, right? I mean, again, the Bryce had said that when a Nazir becomes Tomei Meis, you can't learn anything out from that because that's very strict because it has to start the Nazirus from scratch. But Yemei Chalutai, which is Tzaras, he does not have to start it from scratch. So the Gemara says, "B'mai." So what are we talking about here? Elam ben Nazirus Muetes. Well, are we talking about a basic Nazirus of 30 days? Habin and Gidel Seir. Of course, what's the difference if you have to start the count again or not? Once the guy has to shave his Nazirus, he needs to be a Nazir for 30 days. Right? We're forgetting that rule, right? Meaning, if you're talking about the minimum Nazirus times, who cares if the Yemei Heskera, Yemei Chalutai, the Mitzayra, who cares if it counts or not? Right? Bottom line is, we know the rule is that a Nazir has to have 30 days of growth before his Nazirus could end. And once this guy became a Mitzayra in the middle of his 30 days, then you need to start the 30 days from scratch, else the haircut. So who cares? Elalav, so it must not be talking about the minimum 30 days Nazirus. Elalav ben Nazirus Meruba. It must be talking about where the guy was a Nazir for 100 days. And we learn that the Tzaras days don't count. Only the days leading up to the Tzaras days count, but not the actual Tzaras days. Who's that not like? That's not like Rav Chisda, because Rav Chisda said if it's a long Nazirus, then the Tzaras days do count. So you see that it doesn't work. Shema Mina, we see it from this, that Itaka doesn't work, and Rav Chisda is shlugged up. That's got to be one of the longest kashas in Shas. That kasha took us almost a blot. Okay, it was a short blot, but in the Art Scroll app, if you do the color, my kid pointed out to me that you can make it that the kashas are I forgot what the colors are. Kasha's red, terutzim are yellow, green, I don't know, whatever it is. Here, you got to check this out. This is the color. This is Amud Aleph is a kasha. Right? It's all red, and then Amud Beis is all red again, right? It's all it's fascinating that you have such a long kasha. But anyways, yeah. So that's bottom line is we slug up Rav Chisda, and that's it. Okay, the rest of the blot is actually pretty easy. Fine. So Zok the Mishnah, Amar Rebbe Eliezer, B'Shum Rebbe Yeshua. Call tumas min amei shenazir megalei chaleh. Any tuma from again. Let's just the chazer. We had the previous two mishnayos were what types of tuma make a nazir have to start again, right? We had without, I don't know if it brings up bad memories or not. A quarter of a kav of blood, a quarter of a kav of ground up bones, barley-sized bones, etc., etc. We're going to get back to it, but some of them made the Nazir tummy enough to have to start again, and some of them would not make the Nazir have to start again, right? So what Rebbe Eliezer is saying, B'Shem Yeshua, is that any tumah from a mace that a Nazir would have to take a haircut, which means that the Nazir would have to start his Nazirus again, that same tumah you'd be chayiv if you go into the Beis HaMikdash Tameh. We know that a person is not allowed to go into the Beis HaMikdash Tameh. Which tumah is a person not allowed to go into the Beis HaMikdash with? So we're saying, Rabbi Yeshua is saying, Rabbi Eliezer is saying, B'Shem Rabbi Yeshua, that the same category that would make a Nazir have to start over, whatever tumah it is for that same level of tumah would make somebody chayiv karis for going to the Beis HaMikdash. But if it's not a tumah that's strong enough to make a Nazir have to start over his Nazirus, then that tumah wouldn't be strong enough to make somebody chayiv karis to going to the Beis HaMikdash. Right?
Even so according to Rabbi Akiva?
What do you mean, Rabbi Akiva?
Well, Rabbi Akiva holds you need chatzik. Is it who? I'm sorry. The Gemara before, I'm saying the Mishnah before said chatzikav, right? Is only mitame.
Right.
Anything less than chatzikav. Right. Yeah. I'm saying, but a tumah of a quarter kav would not be mechayiv you for coming to the Beis HaMikdash?
Yeah, l'chor not.
So
right, that's
really. Isn't that a regular Thomas Mace? I'm saying I thought it's only by Nazir we say the din of Chatzi Kav. It's a lachom mashin all got Chatzi Kav. And normal tuma is for Revius, no? For at some place or whatever it is, or Dam, whatever it is.
Yeah, so that's
So this Mishnah is saying not like that. Meaning, I thought it's a special din. Legabe only Nazir we say that the tuma to knock out your Naziris we say it has to be a Chatzi Kav. But everywhere else it's tummy on a Revius.
correct. Okay, so we'll see Rabbi Kiva in the next Mishnah, but even though I don't know if that's going to answer your question, but
No, I'm saying stam. It's stam. A Revius should be enough. There's a chilik. So why would this Mishnah say this is a stama that this is always true? We had said in the previous Mishnah it's not true. Legabe stam.
well, because that was just a machlokes about it.
I understand that, but bias based on Migdash, if you're tummy, you're tummy. Why would clearly there's a chilik between Nazir to knock out his Naziris and everyone else when it comes to this din of Chati or Revius.
Okay, so
no?
so that's going to be okay, but that's going to be the machlokes. We're going to see that those that disagree. Let's see. Okay. So Some Call tumas min ameis shenazim megalech. Any tumah from a mace that a nazir takes a haircut on, meaning that he becomes tumah and he has to start his use again. Chayav and aleh bias mikdash. That type of tumah you'd be chayav if you wanted to be a mikdash. Call tumas min ameis she'eina nazir megalech aleh. Right. This is like a Tanai Kofel. Right. I don't know why the Mishnah has to say this. And if it's a tumah from a mace that the Nazir would not have to take a haircut, meaning the Nazir would have become tummy, ain't chayav and aleh bias mikdash. That you would not be chayav. Rav Meir loiteizu kalam and asheretz. Rav Meir says that can't be. It can't be any worse than sheretz. We know that somebody who's tamei sheretz will also get chorus if he goes into Beis Hamikdash. So you're going to say that somebody who's tamei mace, but it's not a strong enough tamei mace to make a nazir start again, is going to be less tuma than a sheretz? That can't be. So Rav Meir disagrees. So it's a machlokes Rav Meir Rabbi Eliezer. Fine. So then the Gemara is interesting Gemara here. So Rabbi Eliezer, B'shum Rabbi Shua Gomerla, was Rabbi Eliezer saying it over in the name of Rabbi Shua? From B'shum Rabbi Shua Bar Mamal Gomerla. It was from Yeshua Bar Mamal, not from Rabbi Shua. Titania. Amar Rabbi Eliezer, Kishalati Ardaskia. When I went to Ardaskia, Mitzasi is Rabbi Shua ben Pasar. I found Rabbi Shua ben Pasar, Ben Pasar Rosh, I'm sorry. Right? Shahaya Riyoshu v'dan lefnei Rameir b'halacha. Kol tumas min ameisha naz megaleach aleh chayav aleh b'shum bias mikdash. V'chol tum like our Mishnah. V'chol tum min ameisha ein naz megaleach aleh ein chayav aleh b'shum bias mikdash. Amar loi al tizu kala misheretz. So Rameir said to him, "This shouldn't be lighter in your eyes than a sheretz." Right? Same thing as our Mishnah. Amarti loi klum ata baki b'Rabbi Shua bar Mamal. Are you a baki in what Rabbi Shua bar Mamal said? Amar li. Hein, he said, yes, I am. Kach Amrli Rabbi Shua Bar Mama, Mashum Rabbi Shua, Kal Tuma Min Amesha, Nazim Megalech Aleh, Chayav Aleh, Mashum Bias Mikdash. V'chol Tuma Min Amesha, Ein Nazim Megalech Aleh, Ein Chayav Aleh, Mashum Bias Mikdash. Right, so he said, I'm a baki in Rabbi Shua Bar Mama, and Rabbi Shua Bar Mama said it to me in the name of Rabbi Yeshua. So it wasn't really Rabbi Yeshua who said it, it was really Rabbi Yeshua Bar Mama who said it. It's very interesting that the Gemara is spending so much time with this. But who said it? Rabbi Shua Bar Mama. So the Gemara answers, Havi Mishum Rabbi Shua Bar Mama Gamrla. Okay, so it was B'Shem Rabbi Shua Bar Mama, not Rabbi Shua. Right? Not from Rabbi Shua ben Chanani, but from Rabbi Shua Bar Mama. Okay, so meaning we have to make sure we know exactly who said it. Right? Which is what we know that the Mishnah and Avos and the Gemara and Megillah that say that that anything that he says anything b'shem on, right, is maybe gula la'ilam. So we have to make sure that we're very clear as to who said over the memra. So Amrus, they said Shmami no. Kol Shmai to the Misamr b'beit tlasa. Anytime you're saying a mimer over a name of three people, Katmoya Basroy Amrinon, you have to mention the first person and the last person. Mitziyoy Loy Amrinon, you don't have to say it. Meaning, for example, let's say I say something over B'Shem Naftali Liner, right? And Naftali Liner is saying it over B'Shem his father, right? So I would only have to say that and his father said it over b'shem Rav, whoever was that Rav, what's the name of the book? Whatever, it says over b'shem his Rebbe. So when I say it over, I could say, I heard it from Naftali Liner, who heard it from his grandfather, even that he could skip his father, right? You don't have to say what the Gemara is saying, when you're saying something over b'shem somebody, say it over who you heard it from, and then from the first person who said it over. But anything in the middle of the chain, you don't have to say over. That's the chiddush that the Gemara is saying in this whole thing. That's why Rabbi Eliezer said it over in the name of Rabbi Yeshua. Right? Fine. So Amar Rav Nachum Bar Yitzchak Afanan Namit. We learned something like this too. Amar Nachum HaLavler. Nachum the Lavler. Lavler means he's a cipher. Kach Mekuvulanim Rabbi Miyasha. Shekibul Me'aba. Shekibul Min Azugos. He was Makal from his father. Right? Shekibul from the Zugos with the different pairs, Hillel, Shammai, Shmai, and Naftalion, right? That's right. Does that meaning going back? Shekiblu min Nevi'im, who Makam from Nevi'im, Halacha l'Moshe Sinai. That's Halacha l'Moshe Sinai. That what's the din? Bizareya Shabbos, Bizareya Sheves, Bechardel, B'Shnayim, B'Shloshim Mekamis. Let's say somebody plants. You have a din of peah. So the corner of a field, you have to leave over the corner for aniyan. But let's say you have a field that's planted, you have different things planted in the field. You have a sheves, and then you have mustard, and you have in two different places, two or three different places. So each place has to have its own payah. Right? It's a meaning, but he said it b'shem a bunch of people. Yeshua v'Kalev like a chashiv. What happened to Yeshua and Kalev? Meaning he said it over b'shem his father, who said it b'shem the Zugos, who said it b'shem the Nevi'im, and then from Halach l'Moshe Sinai. But he skipped Yeshua and Kalev, right? So why Shema Mina that you don't have to, the middle ones you don't have to say. So therefore you could skip it. So that's basically what we're saying from this. The chiddush from this Gemara is there that when you're saying something over b'shem somebody, you could say it who you heard it from, and then go back to the originator of the saying. But the whole middle, you don't have to say, right? So that's, yeah, fine. Okay, we could stop over here. I hope it was semi-understandable. If not, I apologize. And all right, everybody should have themselves a fine night.
Oh, yeah.
All right.